And when I met her, it was one of those connections that you meet someone and you're like, okay, you're going to be someone I want to continue to network and meet. And when I spoke to her, I was like, we have this event coming up today to kickstart your career. How do we really lean into what we did last year and make it even better this year? So I asked her to be our speaker today, and she graciously said that she would do so. So I warmly welcome Tonya to the stage, the virtual stage, and her background is a lot better than a stairwell. And so I'll go on mute, Tonya, and let you lead us off.
Thank you, Deanna. I appreciate that. Sorry you have to be in the stairwell, but I hope it's a little warm. I know you're up north, so you've had some cold weather.
I'm in New York City. It's like the coldest day here. So actually the stairwell's been the warmest I've been. So yes, I'm good.
Great. Well, as Deanna mentioned, and as some of you may have seen on LinkedIn, there was a little bit of a profile about me. I worked for the largest retailer in the world, Walmart, for 24 years. That's where my career started. I was in college and I didn't really know exactly where my direction was going, but ended up in a management training program there and worked in stores, worked my way up to a store manager. And from there, I went into merchandising, I went into real estate, and I ended in procurement. And I always tell this story. I wish I would have started in procurement and supply chain first, because that's really where everything really starts. That's the nuts and bolts. And then I think you could transition into merchandising anytime. But I did it just a little backwards. And then over the past 2 years, I've had the opportunity to move here to Houston in a role for a manufacturer. And I felt it was time for me to understand, how do I connect all the dots, right? How do you understand how you get the raw materials, how you process it into packaging, how you then ship it to your customer, whether it be a retailer or a CPG company, and then how do you get that product back through the recycling process? And so I feel like my positions have allowed me to come around full circle when it comes to connecting the supply chain with my roles. So that's a little bit about me. Also, I have a 14-year-old daughter. She's a competitive gymnast and she is getting ready to compete this weekend. And I'm super proud of her, and I love to travel. So that's just a little bit about me.
And
And
she's new to Houston. So if anybody wants to meet up, maybe a coffee chat somewhere in Houston, Tonya, you're probably open to that as well, right?
yes, I am.
Yeah, always good to meet people locally. So, and welcome her to Houston, whether you're a native or just happen to be there as well.
Yes. Everyone in Texas has been super nice. So what's the agenda for today? Just briefly, I'm going to let you know what we're going to be discussing. We're going to have just a quick introduction, allow you to be able to share with an icebreaker question. We're going to reflect on the past year. How do you set goals and priorities? And I've got a little bit of a deck that I'll walk you through that. And then planning for success. And then in the last 5 minutes, we'll wrap up and we'll have any Q&A or action items that we can move forward with. One of the things too that I wanted to let you know is this group is open to women and allies, and the focus is to encourage the organization to attract, promote, and retain women in supply chain roles and support women in all stages of our career. All right.
And if I can just add before she gets going, like this is supposed to be interactive. This is for all of us, right? So it's not just meant for her to talk. Please, feel free to jump in on mute. We can raise hands if we want, but I don't think there's too many of us. So if we just want to unmute and ask questions or share, please make this exciting and interactive. That would be great.
Yes, I feel like it's a Monday, but it is a Tuesday. So everyone's like shake it out, get ready for conversation. So
If I can get excited in the stairwell, I think everybody can get excited. Like, I think I have the worst location of all. So, well, I don't know. I don't know where everyone else is at, but based on the pictures, I see everyone else looks better.
yes. So, all right. So the icebreaker is, what's one word you would describe for your 2024 year? So, right, we're starting off 2025, but let's reflect back just a minute on 2024. And I'm going to give you just a minute to think about what that word is, but I want to share some things with you. One, a lot of times when we look back, it can be positive or it can be reflective. And I'm going to share something a little bit reflective because my word is misalignment. Last year, I found myself misaligned in so many aspects of my career, my job, my role, new to a company. I was misaligned on interpreting what the company executives wanted, what the board wanted, what my everyday engineers needed. And then I think I was misaligned on the goals and the clear vision. And when you're misaligned, sometimes it affects your productivity. And I think we all can say we probably work in organizations where change has happened. And if change is there, sometimes there's misalignment and we can't help it. But the one thing I want to do after you share your word is I want to look forward into 2025 and I'll share my perspective for myself as we go forward. But first, I want to hear from you. Tell me, what was your word for 2024? Okay, Jenny, I know you're thinking about it. I see a smile on your face. So if you don't raise your hand, I might call on you.
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
Hi,
Sorry.
Jenny.
Hi, nice to meet you all. It's first time I'm actually joining. I used to live in Houston, relocate to Atlanta in June of last year. So happy that I'm finally convinced by Diana to join these meetings. So, okay, so really quick, my word for 2024 will be change. And is a little bit of connected with misalignments as well. In the entire professional life is several years of being in the procurement world. And it just get to a point in life when I didn't see anything new and exciting happening in my life. And I reevaluate what gonna bring me that joy, because I always love supply chain. I absolutely love the procurement, but in June, actually, I left the company I was at, and I have a great opportunity here at Coca-Cola, relocate to Coca-Cola in Atlanta, and it's just a new starting for me. A great opportunity to also apply some of the other knowledge that I have learned through my certifications, but also maybe I wasn't really have the opportunity to experience all the specifics of the supply chain, and that's exactly the change that I was looking for. So I'm at that stage now where here is a unlimited universe of possibilities to try and to work even with different groups. So I'm very thankful for that. But yes, that will be my word.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Myra, what about you?
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. So I am located here in Houston, and I would say my 2024, it has been confusion. Linked to and change and misalignment. I mean, I know we are talking a few negative leaning words here, but you know, I feel like as women, we tend to focus on our negatives so much more. I think maybe with the intention also with turning that into a positive, right? So my 2025 is that's what I'm planning for, is to straighten out things and to have a clear vision and path forward. So just to give you a background on my 2024, um, I was actually, the company that I work for, I've been with a company for about 10 years. I no longer work for them. I got laid off in November of last year. But the last 7 years has been marked by taking them through bankruptcy and working capital issues in my role in procurement. So that has been quite challenging. And so last year, the earlier part of last year, my boss was the VP of supply chain, gave me indirect procurement as a, as my function. And it was not something that I was expecting, but he said, Myra, I want you to take indirect procurement. Now, one thing to know about the VPs that are moving through supply chain, these people were not coming from a supply chain background. They were coming from legal or compliance or governance or, and one thing that we know about procurement is there's so much of a science to it. And so when I got this portfolio of indirect procurement, I didn't have a team. There is a purchasing team sitting internationally in an India and Manila office. And there's nobody in Houston and no plans to hire either because of the working capital situation. And the portfolio is about $350 million of different, indirect categories. And no necessarily, strategic planning comes down. I would say the right thing to do is for it to come down from company goals and objectives and strategies and so on. So I didn't have any of that structure laid out. So one of my first things to do was to really put a box around it and analyze, do spend analysis and just kind of like think about things that I needed to get done with indirect. So putting strategy in place. Now it's one thing to have strategies in place, but if anybody knows the challenges of indirect procurement is that it really depends on your stakeholders' buy-in to make this successful. And the thing that I ran into was that there was there was misalignment with leadership, misalignment with stakeholders. They didn't really want to deal with an indirect procurement process. And so there were a lot of challenges to kind of sort of like go over, and didn't really have a support. So that last role, I was a senior management of indirect procurement and leading into a director role. So I was doing this role as a director, but not necessarily with the authority, but leading by influence, which made it all the more challenging. So that's kind of like a background of what I was dealing with. Come into mid of 2024, we have a new COO who's now looking at operations. Supply chain is part of operations and looking at making the company even more lean. I never met him. He never came to Houston. So he joins in mid of 2024. And then my boss changes and I get a new boss. He comes from governance and he's 2 months into the role. And a month later, I get laid off along with other people in the Houston management team, category management and logistics and all. And it really didn't have much of an opportunity to, bring those strategies to fruition. So here I am between jobs. And a month after that, I learned I'm getting a divorce. So I moved out of my marital home. I'm, starting all over again. And so that's been, that's been my 2024 chaos and confusion, not necessarily driven by me, but by my environment. So I'm setting things in order now, just straightening things out. I've started that last year after getting laid off. I've not really had a break in my 20s plus years career to just spend time with my family and all. It's just 1 week here, 2 weeks there. So it's been nice to really take a step back and, look at things in a fresher perspective. And I think that this is a good thing that has happened. And, I feel like 2025 has good opportunities ahead. Yeah, so that's my situation.
Thank you, Myra. That's thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your experience. And so 2025, here we are. And I know we're going to see some positive things coming from this year. Cassandra, you said a roller coaster. Would you
Yeah.
like to share why you've had a roller coaster of a year?
Oh yeah, it was a roller coaster. Started out with getting our third VP, and I had been with the company just over a year. And so once again, having to learn the new VP, learn his new vision and how he wants to operate. We had some successes on my team, but then our fiscal year ends in October, and I had a few kind of surprises, unfortunately, come up, and these weren't positive surprises. They were very much again, still trying to learn what the company vision was, what we were needing to go. And then we learned our president was leaving, and then our CEO was retiring at the end of the year. So again, upper management is just in this constant change, and we're just struggling to try to figure out the new one, figure out what they want. We do have remote, our VP is remote. And then I learned our CEO and president will be local for at least a little time. So I'm hoping that being local, we can have more face-to-face, and I feel like that's an opportunity for us to not only for me to impress these people, but to truly understand how they think, what they want, what their vision is, hopefully before they get moved over to our headquarters out of state. So, but yeah, it was all over the place. It was definitely a roller coaster.
Well, I'm going to go to one more because Stephanie, you said record breaking. So I'm hoping that is some positive records there.
It is. I'm in Pearland, Southeast Houston, and I've been in this role for going on 4 years. I've been with the company for 29 years. But this year, with the division that I'm a part of, we had the highest both bookings as well as shipments for the history of the business unit that I'm a part of. And with that, of course, brings a lot of challenges. So we're pushing the limits on our capacity, we're pushing the limits on our supply chain, we're pushing the limits on everything that we've got moving forward. And it's really kind of getting a lot of attention, but sometimes the attention isn't the attention that you want. But yeah, it's been a really phenomenal year, and we're continuing on the trajectory. So it's more challenges ahead.
A little bit of a roller coaster too, then it sounds like. Right, Stephanie?
Yeah,
It's like, hold
Yeah.
on, here we go, 2025.
exactly.
Are they
Love it.
bringing any people in to help with that amount of volume?
Yeah, so we're working with the main, the mothership, so to speak, to utilize resources that are existing in other parts of the organization. Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
So let's talk about our vision for 2025. And, you know, we've had some misalignment, some change, confusion, some roller coasters. For some of us, it was a hard 2024. And for some of us, it looks like you're ready to go into 2025 with all focus, doing more for the record-breaking achievements. And, you know, I personally am going to focus on alignment. And why I'm going to focus on alignment is because I think it will bring me back to everything that's important, my priorities, people, plans, putting everything back into harmony. And I know you may ask, how do you do that? I heard someone say there's things out of your control. There are a lot of things out of our control. And sometimes we get to where we're focused on those things that we forget the things that we can control. So some tangible aspects that I would share is making sure we have clarities in our priorities. Whether you have a job right now or whether you're seeking a job, you can still prioritize the things that you need to achieve that you can be in control in. How do you collaborate across the teams? You know, I've heard some of you say you've had some VPs come and go, or you've had change in management. You know, sometimes you do have those VPs that are stuck in roles that they really have never done before. I recently went through that. I loved procurement, and somehow I got stuck in a VP of sustainability and marketing. Ask me if I know anything about marketing. Nope. So I was one of those VPs sitting over there trying to figure out what I needed to do, what I was trying to do at the same time that my team might have been a little bit confused too of why is she here? And so I say that just to say we can all band together and collaborate across teams, encourage each other with alignment. And then lastly, personal alignment. I think that too, if any of you've ever experienced, you've lost a job, you've stepped out of a job, you went through a restructure, or just personal ups and downs. If you're not in alignment on your day-to-day, and that means either going out and walking, clearing your mind, taking time for yourself, your body understands you're not in alignment. And so you have to make sure that you're taking care of your personal alignment. And so those are 3 things that I want to do this year as I focus into 2025. So I'll give everyone just a moment. If there's anyone that wants to share something they want to achieve going into 2025 or a word they want to focus on.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Jeanette.
And hello, nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Jeanette. What I want to focus this year is the company alignment. The collaboration and the innovation was part of what we, like I personally chose those words because this is the year the company has been in transformation. We have hired high executive officers from different departments, and they are just making changes at the corporation because we are very blessed. We have grown, we have duplicated ourselves in the last 4 years. So we are growing in such a fast-paced environment, and also dealing with the supply chain environment, like in the challenges that they come with. So collaboration is definitely key for all of us, understanding of each other's departments and interactions within each other, how it impacts between one to the other, so we can also innovate together. We are internally creating tools to, first of all, understand where we are, measure where we are, and of course, take those opportunities and just kind of like innovate around them. So that would be what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. That helps us transition into the next topic, challenges and obstacles that we face in the supply chain. If we look back at 2024, you may think, well, maybe nothing was really disrupted in your particular business, but there were some things that did happen around the world. We had labor strikes with over 47,000 port workers that decided to go on strike. And if you were around anywhere in Houston or social media, that one day everyone said, go purchase anything that you're not going to be able to get imported in, right? The olive oils, the key ingredients of food that you might not be able to get. And then again, we saw paper products roll off the shelf like no tomorrow. But we all know most of the paper products are made here in the US if you're in procurement. we had natural disasters, right? We had a couple things happen here in Houston, but not even Houston. All of the rain and mudslides and things that happened in North Carolina. And sometimes we don't always think about this, but I think anyone who's in supply chain, we have to be able to think about these pressures that are in our environments, right? Because we've got to be able to pivot quickly. Even though we may not live in North Carolina and it may not affect us, there are ports on the outskirts of the East Coast, and that could disrupt any supply chain if we were importing goods in. And then there's sustainability pressures. I mean, just to raise a hand, you know, how many of you know or hear about sustainability in your jobs, in your roles? Yeah. And sometimes in the organization, it's not always the whole organization that is being relied on when it comes to sustainability, but the pressure is put on supply chain and procurement daily. We hear it, we try to understand it, we try to execute it, but again, we have an entire organization that has to align to those sustainability pressures that we see. So as you see these type of challenges, you know, I just want to ask, what are anything that we can do that will keep supply chain resilient and successful? What are things that you're doing that you just know that you're prepared if something were to happen, or measurements that you've put in place?
Sorry, one more time. I don't know if there is a specific word itself, but what we're doing internally is to actually collaborate. And I'm going to elaborate more on that. We need to understand holistically what the disruptions on the industry can affect the rest of the departments and then impact myself. So we're kind of like going backwards to understand where the situations are. You were just saying about the fires in California. Of course, that's going to cause disruptions, not just with the ports, but with transportation. Even customers cannot receive product just because they don't have enough people to unload the trail. So it's already an impact going on based on that. So we just kind of have to measure and continue to be resilient and to be proactive about it. We cannot stop being proactive. We need to obviously be, I guess this is part of the industry itself, but we always have to be resilient and we always have to be reactive, but it's how we focus on minimizing the situations to be reactive all the time and be proactive instead, where we can actually be proactive.
I love that. You summarized it well. And that's what we do in supply chain. We're agile, right? We have the ability to be flexible, to move transportation around, to change our strategies, to provide and mitigate risks in our environment. And that's what makes us so cool, right? I think everyone should want to work in supply chain because we have a really cool job. Not everyone has the ability, I think, to move and pivot the way that we do. And you're right, Jeanette. Now we're thinking, you know, we just got over the East Coast having all of these floods and devastation. And then now we're looking at California, right? We're going from East Coast to West Coast, two of the biggest areas of where we get, you know, imported goods. And so being resilient, being agile, being flexible, and understanding where you've got to move quickly, that's what we do. And that's our strong suit. And that's what we have to go into, as you said, our 2025 goals. How are we, you know, some of the things that I could provide to you is, you know, how do you help set up a strategy, right? You may have a strategy that's tiered down from your leadership, but you also should have your internal strategy of your operations. So how do you invest in your analytics, understanding how you have to move things around and make forecasts if there's disruptions. How do you strengthen your cross-functional team? You know, I am the first to tell you, even as big as Walmart is, the thing that made me most successful is that I always brought in everyone else in the organization. There was always an operations person in my meeting. There was always a sustainability person in my meeting. There was always a merchandising person in my meeting. It took everyone to understand what I was trying to achieve, but how I could help them achieve their goals as well. How you collaborate cross-functionally. And I'll say this, during COVID, and we all probably have COVID stories, right? But during COVID, aluminum was hard to get. And we were trying to procure aluminum for fixtures for our stores that were growing. And we also were procuring fixtures, right, for sanitizing station, things that needed aluminum as part of their product. We ended up aligning with our merchants in frozen food because all of the pie films that they ship their pies in are aluminum. And so it was like connecting two different suppliers in two different realms and bringing them together. And it was like, well, why don't we do this more often, right? Why don't we collaborate more? Another thing, diversify your supply chain networks. Make sure you always have a backup, right? I would say if you've only got one supplier, you need to have multiple suppliers. Foster innovation. Make sure that you are looking at things, what's going on ahead, right? We all know AI is happening. We know that companies are looking at different ways of doing business, engaging the way they manufacture materials, the way they transport the methods. Are you at least involved in understanding what those is, what those things are? Maybe you're not part of the innovation, but you should be part of listening and discovering what that innovation is about. And then last, I would say flexibility in your long-term planning. As I mentioned, we can have the best plan. And I always say strategies are a plan and they are meant to change. They're not across the board and this is end all be all. A strategy is a goal that you set, but those goals might have to be changed. So always have a contingency plan in place. So those are just a couple of my 5 goals for 2025 that I would say if you want to move with agility, focus on some of those aspects and how you can outperform in your area.
And a shameless plug for ASCM certificates. Deanna has the most, so if anybody wants to know about any of those, contact her. But, you know, learning and growing is huge, right? As we look at Kickstarting 2025. So if you have time, like if you're in between or you're, you know, empty nester or, you know, going through different situations, like take the opportunity to invest in yourself, right? And the other thing, I was out of a job last year and networking, like attend these, talk to people, connect with them. Every job I've gotten is from someone I know, including the board membership that I sit on for ASCM. But like everything is through networking and connections. And so meet people. And at the end of the day, I have coffee chats with anyone. And I say at the end of the day, at the end of a coffee chat, you may be my boss, you may be my client, you may be a friend. What if that is bad? Nothing, right? And even if you aren't any of those 3 at the end, like it's 30 minutes. Who doesn't have 30 minutes, right? So definitely encourage people to find their sweet spot, sweet spot of how to network authentically, because it's huge for your career. And then look at certificates, look at training, and just connect with people and talk. If anyone on here is doing a role you want, call them, right? And say, hey, I want to be you one day. How can I become you? So, Deanna, I think you're off mute. You wanna talk about all those initials next to your name or add some insight?
I have two official certificates from ASCM. One is called an endorsement, and one is actually from the Project Management Institute. So that's outside of this organization. But we have Pete here, who is an ally, and he has 4 official ASCM certifications. So you can definitely ask him. He's one of our regular volunteers with the Houston chapter. I think I wanted to just add to what Deanna had said is that I put the links for free membership. We also, as a Houston chapter, offer scholarships. So if you're unemployed, active military or a veteran or disabled, we have some scholarships to help with that training costs. Definitely the networking. I think, as Jeanette said, proactive, and actually, so my word is intentional. I think they're very similar. So it's just now that you're aware of the organization or of the folks on this call, reach out, connect with them on LinkedIn. Just as Deanna said, maybe you ask questions about what is it like to do your job and how did you get there? And just as I mentioned to Stephanie and Jeanette, your companies are booming. Is there a possibility that there are some openings for our folks here that we can share by
always
either word of
hiring.
mouth? Yeah. So which company do you work for? Maybe you can put that in the chat, and the rest of us can share that with our network to check out your company, because that's a great story that your company is booming. That's
Thank
always
you.
good to hear.
Absolutely. I put the name in there. You're more than welcome to check our website and obviously see where anything, then the job descriptions that are available there for you to apply in it. So our company's Makes a Link. So we are a massive distributor of food products and health and beauty. We distribute to Walmart's, Costco's, Kroger's, everywhere, any grocery stores, etc.
That's great. Thanks. Wouldn't have known about your company if we didn't have this meeting here and have a chance to chat. And just as Jenny had said, she was part of the Houston chapter, but she's moved away. But because this is virtual, we can get to chat and hear about how she's now thriving. I think at first we often are surviving because we're taking care of everything around us, but again, being intentional on how can we thrive where we are. So that's my 2 cents.
So before we go into setting goals and priorities, I just want to take a minute to ask if there's any goals that came to mind that I maybe didn't mention. Deanna, thank you for investing in yourselves. That's very much important as well. Marissa, I saw you kind of shaking your head a couple times as I mentioned things. Is there anything that you would like to mention as you go into 2025 and setting goals when it comes to supply chain?
Yeah. So thanks for the call out. I'm so my role is a little bit different in that I don't work in supply chain, but I'm the principal research lead for supply chain management at APQC. We're a not-for-profit. And so I'm always looking at what's going on in supply chain, and everything everyone said resonates with what I see in all my research. And I every year do a survey on priorities and challenges for the coming year. And the interesting thing is the number one obstacle to improving supply chain that was cited in our survey is collaboration or lack of collaboration. So, and that's both within your organization, all the functions that make up supply chain, but also on the ends with your customers and your suppliers. So my goal for this year is to do more research in collaboration and get actionable guidance out there for folks on how to do that better. And I have colleagues here who study that, so I'm going to borrow from them and contextualize it for supply chain. But as you were talking, I think I changed my one word for this year, and it's going to be get out of my comfort zone. No spaces, right? That makes it one word. Because I've worked here for 29 years and I've done different things over the time, but also I'm like now an empty nester and I always know I need to network, but it's kind of hard when you're a little bit less than extroverted, maybe. And so that's going to be my goal for this year is to be proactive, be intentional, and get out there a little bit more and push myself to be a little uncomfortable on things. So, um,
I
We're
love
glad
that.
to have you, Marissa.
thank you.
And I think that's a hashtag that you're talking about.
I'm glad that you said that because in my coffee chat with Deanna, like let me tell you, she's a powerhouse and was here in Houston. And she said the same thing. I'm an empty nester. I need to get out of my way. And look, she took a job in New York City and I mean, and she's just going to rock it. And I think sometimes, you know what, if it's out there, take a leap. But Marissa, I can see you have passion in the work that you do and what you have to do to collaborate with so many people who probably have so many opinions.
True.
Do any of us work with people without opinions? If so, tell me your company and put it in the chat.
There's so many, sometimes I don't even think I have an opinion.
Literally walk in, they know our name.
That's awesome.
It sounds like sometimes collaboration within our companies may be difficult because there's different layers of leadership or just being regionally diverse or remote. So hopefully, like sharing amongst a group like this, where we don't work for the same companies, but we do have the same issues that we can learn and collaborate with each other and take that back to our companies.
Yes.
If I may, I actually want to share something related to this. So one of my frequent asked questions to the stakeholders, I have the badge of newbie, so I utilize it very well, meeting different people. And one of my frequent asked questions to stakeholders here is a suggestion or a tip that they can give me for success. And 90% of the people tell me networking. And as Dina said, not only within the company, we don't know the person at the cafe where we're gonna meet them next time, or not only to get help at some point, but maybe we can be of their help in some way. So I'm also, because my experience in procurement, I've been on the other side of the table where it's more salespeople approaching me, calling for an appointment. And I've been on that side that now I decide to move to this side of the table where I'm the one reaching out to people, scheduling calls, scheduling even 15, 20 minutes of Teams meeting, call, and let's get a coffee. I never been that person. But this is the year where I have stepping out and say, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna start really working on my networking, and that is my goal for this year.
I love it. And this is my passion point, coffee chats. So like when I was unemployed, I had to figure it out, right? Like I had to figure out, I never was good at, remember in college, like how many people are early in your career, they're like network, and you're like, yeah, whatever. And, it wasn't until I was unemployed that I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? How do I do this? I'm also an introvert. And introvert just means at the end of the day, you recharge alone, right? An extrovert recharges in a group. And so you can't tell by looking at someone if they're an introvert or extrovert usually. And so like at the end of the day, it's about being authentic and finding a way to do it with authentic. Like how can you do it? And if you're not comfortable networking, start with a partner. Like that's what I was telling Tonya, right? Like when you're networking and you're new at it, you don't know how to do it, find someone else who doesn't know and go together and help each other. Like I was at one of my first networking, like when I was trying this with Marta, who's on our committee, and And I was talking to someone, I was trying to make it work. That person was not interested in speaking to me. And I wasn't getting the clues. And Marta was like, she's got her arms crossed. She's not interested. Let's move on. And I was like, okay, no, thanks. And it's like, find somebody like and just connect with them and do it, or find a way that is genuine to you. But even if you love your career and you're successful and your company is great, you have no interest, like just do it anyway, like give back or plan for the future, which is unknown. And so I heard so many people say that, and I just want to iterate, like, you do not have to be an extrovert. You don't have to know what you're doing. There is no formula. Just be you. Just talk to people. And one last thing I'll add is most people like to talk about themselves. So if you ask them to talk about themselves, most people will be like, sure, how much time do you have? So anyway, sorry, Tonya, I know this is your show, but anytime networking comes open, I just like can't be quiet.
No, I think it's important that we hear what each other's going through, right? I mean, I can sit here all day and pull this information. A lot of it you've already heard. It's a reminder, right? But it's the actual moments in our lives that we've had like this that we're going to connect with someone because they're either going through it or have gone through it. And I'm a huge networker. I love people. But when I moved here to Texas, I let my guard down and I had stopped networking, and I was displaced in August. And for a moment, I was in panic. I don't know anyone here. I don't, even if I gave someone my resume, they don't even know what I do. And you have to tell the story. So, I quickly reminded myself that even if someone doesn't live here in Houston, reach out to your contacts. They want to hear, they want to help. And sometimes I'm always like, I don't want to bother somebody. I'm going to tell you, if you're at that moment where you need help and you need support, bother them. They're going to open themselves up. And if they can't help you, they're going to connect you to someone that will. And I continue to see that happen in every conversation that I'm having.
Right. So can I say something before I leave? Because I have a work meeting at 1:00.
Yes,
Do we want
please.
to take a
So-
group picture too?
Oh, okay. Want to real quick?
Okay, everybody smile.
Well, whoever wants to go on
Yes,
camera, do it quick. It's like we're holding our breath. Oh, come on. Did it work? No, sorry. It's like we're holding our breath. Okay, and I'm looking away. Oh, you guys keep talking. I'll get one.
No, do it again. Do it again, Deanna. We got a second. Do it now before we got to go.
Okay. I'm gonna take one more. I think that's got it. Yep. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, now go ahead.
Okay. So before I go, I want to say thank you, and thank you, Tonya, for presenting today. But so 2024 and 2023, I have been doing vision boards. And so these are my vision boards right here. No, okay. So this year I did not do a vision board because nothing on these vision boards I have completed. So I can just probably tear these vision boards up. So 2025, I have came into perspective like, you know what? I'm gonna just go with the flow. I'm gonna go on with a clear mind and I'm gonna live day by day. Whatever happens today, I'm just gonna live by. If I feel like waking up today and going to church, I'm going to church. If I wake up today filling out a job application, that's what I'm gonna do today. Because when I went into 2024, and I think everybody knows, my job took a cut. They took a pay cut. I got my doctor's degree in supply chain management. And I was searching. I used to wake up looking for jobs. I used to go to sleep looking for jobs. Guess how many interviews I got the whole 2024? One job interview. And guess what? That tore me up so bad. So this year, I'm just going to say, just go with the flow. So that's my word for the year. I am going with the flow. If I see a job out there that I like, I'm just going to apply for it. And if it comes my way, it comes my way. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So me having a breakdown and me saying, why I didn't get this job? I'd applied for 20 million jobs. I'm not going to even worry about it. I'm going to live day for day.
I had to come off mute. Absolutely amazing. You go. Call me if you need anything. That's awesome.
I think
I
it's
will.
great. I did my first vision board this weekend. Was a vision board, you know, the day of the vision board. And I did it for the first time because I wanted to go into it. But now I'm like, maybe I should rip it up.
Try it. Try it.
I mean, you could try it. Like I said I was going to run a 5K every month. I didn't run no 5K every month.
Maybe make it simpler. Have a 4-quadrant
It
board.
did.
with
I
just
looked
4
up, like
things.
I didn't do nothing. I didn't do none of this stuff.
Oh my.
Everything.
I
yes.
think we got a lot of tips today about collaboration, networking, just being here to support each other and attending these kind of things. So
Yes.
good luck to everyone. And Tonya, thanks for sharing that too.
You're welcome. Thank y'all. And I am on LinkedIn. It is Tonya Zerzicki. Zerzycki.
Awesome. And if you applied, did this event, you'll see all my stuff there as well. So LinkedIn with me as well. And do we have more time, Dean, or is that it? Is it an hour? Or?
We've got it's an hour. We've got 2 more minutes.
Okay.
Tonya,
you want to wrap up?
Sure,
Yeah.
we were having so much fun. There is I had a PowerPoint deck, but I'm not going to share it because it's no worries. But there is one thing on there that I was just going to share, and I can send it out to everyone. I can have the team send it out to you all if you would like it. But it's just an image of the iceberg and how the supply chain, how we fit within that iceberg and how we have things that are above the water, but all of the things underneath the water that we forget to look at, or we have to be reminded of, or we have to do research. And Marissa, you would have loved it because I had a point in there that really talked about customer experience and all of the different surveys that we should do to ensure that our customers are getting the best experience from our supplies or our procurement or whatever role that we're in when it comes to supply chain, which there's many, right? And so let me.
Everyone who wants to share their contact information, put it in the chat. And then there's 3 dots at the top of the chat that you can save the chat. So any of the links that were shared in there. But let me check if the events, is it to 1:15? Oh, it is till 1:15. I'm sorry.
I thought it was too, but if we need to log off, we can.
I'm good.
Everyone else, are you good for
Good.
a few more minutes?
I'm
I'm
good.
good.
Okay.
Very interesting.
That means you want to see my slideshow.
Phil, you need to come on camera.
Okay, let me get it back up here and then, oh, this is going to be, now I've got to get back on Zoom. Okay. Okay. I'm going to play it from the start so you all can see it. And then let me move this down here. So, okay, can everyone see? Okay.
Yep.
And then let me. Okay. So the next part that I was going to discuss is setting goals and priorities. And really, this is just to kind of give you some guidance. I do think it's some things that you've probably heard, and maybe it's a reminder as you're going into setting your goals for 2025. I put in here priorities for plastics. I think it could work pretty much anywhere, but plastics is what I'm most familiar with. So how do you set and align your supply chain goals? And these are ways that you drive success. One is by cost optimization, sustainability, customer satisfaction, and delivering reliability. So why does alignment matter? We've all talked about how we have to communicate and collaborate with other people in our on our teams, and we play a pivotal role in achieving the organizational goals. Even though sometimes we're in the background, I guarantee you if something goes wrong, they come straight to procurement and want to know what could we have done different and where our contingency plans were. So misalignment can lead to inefficiencies, missed opportunities, and reputational risks. So as we talk about, we're going to explore these goals, and those are the 4 key points. So cost optimization. Goal 1, optimize your raw material procurement costs. Goal 2, how can you improve manufacturing efficiencies to reduce energy usage? And number 3, streamline logistics for lower transportation costs. Again, you can use this as setting up your own goals because you may have different procurement needs or different procurement requirements or even other things that you're working on in supply chain. But there should be 3 goals you can fit into when it comes to cost optimization. Check with your teams on forecasting tools also that you can use that can minimize overstock and reduce holding costs. I know in my prior job, they had one facility that they had used for manufacturing, and then they ended up opening it up to house all of the goods they were making during COVID. Well, after COVID was over and they started moving out, all of the product, and they didn't need that holding space anymore, they were still incurring the cost for that operation. So they decided, how do we reduce these costs? So you move your people around, and then you no longer, have the warehouse. You either sell it off or rent it out for someone else. Sustainable initiatives. Increase use of recycled resins, adopt a closed loop recycling system, comply with evolving environmental regulations. And so on the next slide, I just gathered a little bit of, this is from Plastics for Change. And you can see here that there's so many different variables that goes into making a product or, selling a product that you might not think about. But if you're asking for a certain spec, is the design right? Are we manufacturing it correctly for our production teams? How's it distributed? Are we full truckload or are we less than truckload? What are the costs that are part of that sustainability? Consumption, are there things we can reuse? And then at the end of the day, are we collecting it and are we recycling it? And no matter what industry we're in, there should be some form of recycling collection capability if you work in the office. Customer satisfaction. Ensure timely delivery of customer solutions, improve transparency in your material sourcing, offer innovative designs that meet customer needs. And, sometimes customer satisfaction comes with hard conversations, and we sometimes forget that. But we can provide better customer satisfaction if we elaborate to our goals. Maybe you may not have to be transparent about your whole company's goals, but what are the goals they need to do to be more successful for you? And I think you'll see your customer satisfaction increase as well. And then offer innovative designs that meet customer needs. So here I just give you an example of just a business-to-business customer journey. And if you see some acronyms up there like CES, that's a customer effort survey. CSAT, that's a customer satisfaction score. And then NPS is a net promoter score. And if you procure or distribute goods to retailers, or anyone in the industry that really wants to know what that end user how they are feeling about your product, if they're satisfied. These are the surveys they use, and they're really informative. And some companies actually have to share their net promoter score to their stakeholders. So it's important that you at least have a good understanding of what the customer journey looks like. And then last, delivery of reliability. Enhance production lead times periodically, build contingency plans for your supply chain disruptions, improve coordination with downstream partners. I think one of the things, and you can see an example, diversifying your supplier networks to mitigate risks. I think if we all can say one good thing about COVID is it taught us so many things about diversifying our network and being able to mitigate those risks, making sure we have enough connections so that we can always be on time and in full for our customers. And here's just an example that I found on how do you shorten your lead times. You know, source locally when you can. Where's your logistics capabilities? Is there going to be automation in your manufacturing or in your operations? And then how do you develop your talent, right? Your employees to think differently, maybe think outside of the box, looking at new ways to do things. And I say all this because I know we all have budgets, right? And we all have to meet the guidelines, you know, save money in so many different facets of our business. But there's some things that we can save money on and then maybe pivot that money to other things if we have to source locally or if we have to import. And then lastly, a unified strategy. How do you connect the dots? And you do that by transition to local sourcing of materials, you know, understanding how the shipping costs and tariffs optimize your cost, how you lower carbon emissions, faster delivery times, and then how do you mitigate risks. I'm a big component of understanding that we do have to source outside of the US. So I'm not saying you cannot do that. I'm just saying we have to always be able to understand what the difference is. And at different times, different products are going to the cost will be higher or lower, even outside of the US. If you want a way to really look at a strategy, the Venn diagram is probably what is most used in procurement and supply chain. You can see here customer-centric supply chains, demand-driven networks, and then the outside processes. How do you bring in your social listening? How do you hear what the customers are saying? And this is just an example. A lot of times companies make their own. You can have 2 circles, 3 circles, but it's all about how it's interconnected. If you do not have a strategy that's built together, connecting all the dots of the business, then it's possible your supply chain might be broken. And so here's a call to action. Be agile. Align your supply chain for 2025 by reflecting on your current supply chain challenges and opportunities. Identify your key areas for alignment across priorities. Implement strategies so you can respond to any future disruptions. And then I love this quote: progress lies not in enhancing what is, but in advancing towards what will be. And then here's just the iceberg model. There's many different models. There's some with a lot of words. But again, this is just where you look at your total cost of ownership and how you may only be focusing what's on the surface, but there's so many things that you have to look below the surface to focus on. And so make sure that as you're building out your strategy, put some of those key things that you've learned from the past that might be disruptors that you can prepare for this year. And that is all I have on my slide deck. So hopefully you had a moment to take some key notes, or at least see some goals of those 4 areas that you can actually put into practice in your own day-to-day, or even give you food for thought, just to be digesting as you think through what 2025 is going to look like. So I'll take a brief pause and see if anyone has any insight or any comments they want to make.
Thanks, Tonya. I think if you can share the slides, and we'll have the recording that we can email to the folks here. We usually post the recording just on the ASCM Houston chapter site, and kind of keep it there versus posting it on LinkedIn. But the picture,
The picture we can do on LinkedIn, right, DNA?
that's usually, yeah, what we like to do. And then, yeah, we like to tag the folks, because some of the sessions we've had in the past have been about networking and your profile on LinkedIn, even just the elevator, pitch kind of thing. So we've had some sessions on those kind of topics.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Deanna, for making sure this all technically could happen. So appreciate it. Thank you,
pleasure.
all of us, for not minding I'm in a stairwell. And Tonya, great job. Thank you for joining us, and look forward to you being on future calls with us.
Sure, I appreciate it, and thank you all for joining. I know we have just 2 minutes left, and if you do have questions later, send it to any of us. We'll get it to each other, and I look forward to hopefully being able to participate in future events. One thing that you will learn about me from LinkedIn on my profile is purpose is very important to me, and I feel like we all come together when we have a purpose, but purpose is not static, it's dynamic. Purpose is going to be consistent throughout your life. You just have to apply it. Aristotle said, at the intersection where your gifts, talents, and abilities meet a human need, you will discover purpose. So think about all of the things that you're doing in your daily life, in your career, in your personal journey that focuses on purpose, because we're all here for a reason.
Absolutely. Love it. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much, Tonya, again, for all of your hard work and quick work, because this was a quick ask. So appreciate everybody joining us, and Kickstart 2024, 2025. See, I can't even believe 2025, and make it about the year for you. And so live each day, one day at a time, and do it right. So look forward to hearing all about your journeys, and join us Thursday for the ASCM Houston event if you can. And if not, go on our website and look at our future events, and definitely join and connect with us. We appreciate everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.